My name is Chris Watson. I came up from Nebraska and found a nice, lovely smoke trail all the way to North Dakota. I used Copilot to make this presentation. So it's a little rough, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys the feel of what Copilot could do, and from the very beginning. I do a lot of stuff more on the system side. I've done a lot of migration, stuff like that with Copilot starting up. We've kind of started doing a lot more with Copilot, and I've been trying to do some more of that stuff that we're doing. I like the product. I have the product. I use it daily for lots and lots of stuff. Agenda items. Basically, I just said, hey, I need a presentation on Copilot. Okay, here you go. Now, I did change a couple of things. What is Copilot? Intelligent assistant, blah, blah, blah. It's AI. It's your helper throughout the day. It is not going to replace you. It's not going to take over. It's going to help you get to the point of, I don't have to do these repetitive things as much. I can narrow things down. I use it a lot for like pre-sales calls so that I can do a transcription of it, so that I can go back and use Copilot to say, what did we all talk about? I had done one where I couldn't remember how many users a company had. And I went into Copilot, hey, how many users did they have, rather than reading through the whole transcript? And there it was. So works out really nice that way. A lot of people do use it for coding. And then a lot of workflow and automation. Again, I'm not going to go through every slide. You probably can't read it back there anyways. If when we're done, you want the PowerPoint presentation, you can reach out to marketing and they will get it to you. And then there's a couple other things that I have a whole, when I went to Microsoft Ignite last year, I came back with a whole slide deck of a whole day's training of Server 2025. So if you guys want that as well, we'll get that over to you and get that out. And I bring that up because I did some AI stuff with it that was really cool. And we'll talk about that when we get there. Types of Copilot, again, that was all them. I put in the pictures. You've got the Copilots, and I'm going to call them the free Copilot. Okay, and they really are. They're the ones in Edge and Bing, Windows 11. Now you see it in there. You know, basically, it's the ones where anything you type in there, Microsoft is going to use to train their large language model. So everything inside of there, they're going to use for all of that. Most of what we're going to be talking about today is Copilot for productivity. So in other words, the inside of Teams, inside of Word, inside of Outlook, those types of things, and maybe even some searching stuff with those. Then there's the analytics. There's Copilot for business applications. In other words, the dynamics that is out there. Copilot for security. This was actually pretty cool. If you've in O365 and you've been in the security center and you've had an alert, you've clicked here and then it goes over to here, and then you click another page over to here and then another page over to here. Copilot for security will kind of bring all that together and give you one nice page of everything that is there. Kind of combines that into a nice report, gives you some stuff on the back end of what you should do and stuff like that. And then sales and stuff like that, there are some plugins with, just like a lot of the other stuff, there are some plugins now for Copilot to go into some of this other stuff. And that's just growing daily. So if you have a CRM or something like that, more than likely you can maybe get it tied into Copilot, have somebody do an application for it, and actually not have to go to the application and do that. Internally, we use NetSuite, and I've been trying to, they're still working on that, that connection where account managers could go into their Copilot and say, what open ops do I have? And there's some of those here. So you guys don't pay attention to what I'm saying because it's not here yet or may not happen. But there is some of those things where they could go in and say how many open opportunities, and it can go to that CRM and bring all that back in. So again, we're in one area that would be nice for that. But those are kind of the different ways of looking at it. I'm going to be talking mostly about the middle top one there, just basically the productivity. I'm not going to go through the free ones, you know, the Bing and Edge and all of those. Software development, like I said, people are using it for software development, assisting in code. We have a couple people inside of High Point that do write a lot of PowerShell scripts and stuff like that. They will actually use Copilot to do that. And, you know, I know a lot of people are using ChatGPT, so it's synonymous. I mean, I'm not saying that it has to be Copilot. Just this is a Microsoft thing, and I have to talk about Microsoft for the most part. And then again, debugging, stuff like that. Automating repetitive tasks. Again, we've all had these out there. Copilot has made it a little bit easier to go, hey, when I get an email from so-and-so, I need a response of this because they always ask the same question or whatever. You can just say, you know, when they email me with maybe this in the subject line, return this. And you got to be a little careful with that because if they have Copilot on the other side, you can have Copilot talking to Copilot talking to Copilot. And if you've seen some of the AI stuff, AI made up its own language to talk to each other faster. And it sounds like the old modem from what I understand, the old dial-up modem. It was freaky. And I've got some other examples of that. But yeah, they just started talking to each other and, oh, you're AI, I'm AI, let's talk in this. And then they just started in this new language. So, like I said, hail overlords. Focus on creativity. This is where I come into play. I do PowerPoints all the time, and I will do it, and it looks, if you've seen any of my presentation, you can tell that I'm not a creative person. I'll throw in some pictures, throw in some chats or some text here and there. I don't usually read off my PowerPoints anyways, so I never really cared. This actually makes it a little bit more structured. When we actually get into looking at Outlook and some of the Copilot stuff in Outlook, there is some good creativity stuff in there, and there's some good ways to re-say some stuff. I'm very, for those that have known me for many years, I'm very blunt, very, very just, hey, this is what it is, sorry. I used to work for Jason at Essentia 15 years ago, and he's back there shaking his head like, yeah, he's a little blunt. So Copilot helps me with the emails of saying, hey, let me type up what I want to say and let Copilot make it more business and more whatever, or more personable or stuff like that. Creativity part of this. Has anybody used Copilot in Outlook? Have you had it made a poem yet?
No.
You can make a poem. It's great. We'll show that later. Job satisfaction, you know, less time spent on all the other stuff. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I know that you guys are mostly in IT or in that type of role. You guys don't work just 40 hours. You have enough stuff to do that you're constantly being bombarded with stuff. Or some of these now will make it so you can maybe get 60 hours a week done, maybe in 50, so that you're not working 60 hours. So those are the one type of person that's going to get Copilot is they're going to be the ones that I'm overworked already. I'm going to use this so that I can go home at 5 o'clock on Friday and not have to worry about anything on Saturday. The other type of people that we have are those that basically Monday through Friday, they have the same work to do, and whether they get it done early or late, it doesn't matter, that they only have a set amount of work. Maybe for them, I don't think so, because what you're doing is, unless you have something more to give them, you're telling them, hey, you can have Friday afternoon off because we just saved you 4 hours a week. So that's where you got to kind of figure out your audience of who's doing some of these with those repetitive tasks and creativity. Again, assistance, create workflow, content generation. You've all probably seen some of the new AI stuff that's come out with the Google video thing. I've got a video of it later, you know, where creativity, it says that it's enhancing, but sometimes it's just taking it away when you type in a sentence and it'll do, you know, whatever. And I know like some of these songs now, you can put in a bunch of stuff about a person and it'll create a song for that person about that person. I just, it floors me on what it can do. Benefits, improving accuracy, efficiency. I do agree with these, the reducing human errors. Again, with me sending out emails and talking, a little rough around the edges, kind of helping with that. The human errors, a lot of times now with like some of the coding or PowerShells that we do, we actually can get, we can say, oh, I know that this is how I've always done it, but it's not working. And you can put it into AI now and say, hey, why is this not working? And it can help you out. If you do a lot of PowerShell scripting or, that type of stuff, is it Visual Studio or Visual Basic, whatever Microsoft uses for some of the programming stuff, you can actually go into there and it has Copilot for free in there. And you can tell it what kind of PowerShell script you want, and it'll put it out, it'll comment it all out and everything else. So really, really nice for some of those. And you put it in, it says, this didn't work, I got this error. Oh, yep, you need to do this inside of there. So it's really good with doing those types of things. Real-time suggestion, quality of work. Quality of work for me has been improved. We have a gentleman, Dwayne, he's our CTO. He, like most C-level people, don't want a 2-line thing like I'm used to and like to do. This is what we should do. He wants a nice 3-page Word document, everything lined up and everything else. So this has helped me in those types of things of my quality of work for dealing with people like that. So if you got people that, no, I want a nice written out document, this saves it. And we'll go through that when I do it, of what the 2 lines that I did and what I got out of it for a nice report. Yeah. Security screens. This one I am going to go through a little bit. Sensitive data handling. I was just on a call last Friday talking about this and Purview, and basically it's we talk security and Copilot, but it's more we just need to talk about security and data security. It's not really Copilot that makes things whatever, it's the stuff that's already there. So one of the things that some people did when they first got Copilot, they said, oh, no, I'm not letting you scan our SharePoint. No, we're leaving that out because that's unsafe and all of that. It's not really unsafe. Here's the thing. Your safety in that, or your security in that, is security through obscurity, because people just don't know where stuff is. You've got the old S drive of all these files, and there was no way to find any of that stuff. So yeah, little security by obscurity, it would be 12 folders deep under this one, and you knew where that was, then you would go from there. Or now, if people are starting to put stuff up in SharePoint, you need to make sure that those permissions are there, because I know SharePoint search doesn't really work all that well. It's not great, but you can slowly work your way to find something. So Copilot doesn't make an item less secure, it makes it easier to find. So keep that in the back of your mind. If let's say you had a Project Poodles, okay, that you wanted nobody should really have access to it, you could give Copilot to someone and say, hey, I need you to just search Copilot and say, can you give me all the information on Project Poodles? And if they get back information, it's not that Copilot found it, it's not that Copilot gave that user permission, that permission was already there. So your permissions have to be set when you start with Copilot and looking at documents and those types of things. So that's the biggest thing that you need to do. Just kind of your environment, make sure it's there. Now, there are some things that are built into Copilot with searching. So let's say I said in there, let's say in a sheet that was in just SharePoint that listed everyone's salary. I know this is probably a big one that's out there. If I went in and said, hey, what does so-and-so make per year? It's going to come back and say, that's a personal HR question. You need to go ask them. Even if they knows that document's out there, even if it knows the answer, it knows it should not give that to you. So any of the PII stuff, the social security numbers, birth dates, those types of things, it knows not to give you that. So it's not that it makes it less secure or more secure. It is what it is. Your data is there. It's just making it easier to find. Misuse, we'll go through a lot of these once we get rolling here. We are seeing a lot of misuse in the threat actors or the attackers that are trying to come in. It's real easy. It's all AI now. It's as a service. They come in and they tell AI, I want to try and hack this site on their stuff, and away it goes. So anyone, it's making it where anyone can kind of do a lot of different stuff dangerously. So let's say I said, hey, I want to hack into a computer system. It's going to probably come back, depending on what AI it is, and say, sorry, you're talking about illegal stuff. I can't do that. However, if you said, hey, how would someone get into my system by hacking through this vulnerability, it'll give you step-by-step of what you can do. So again, it's not smart enough to understand what it should and shouldn't. It's only based on what it's been programmed to do. Yep, so there's the vulnerabilities, importance of awareness, knowing what's out there. So when you first do a Copilot license, all of your data inside your environment, your SharePoint, your OneDrive, unless you've excluded SharePoint, all your SharePoint data, your OneDrive data for all your users, all of your emails, all of your team chats, all of your teams and channels and all that stuff gets put into what they call a semantic index. And that's your company semantic index. It's basically your database of everything inside of there. Then once that person gets a license, they get a personal semantic index. So they, inside of that, it says, what does this person have access to? This, and this. Okay, I can tie this with the company one, so I know that we can just go off of that. So it will only give, like I said, permission to search or see or do any of that stuff or get a recap on what they have permissions to. So if you've shared something out, just because they don't have permissions dynamically, but you've shared it out, they now have access to it, so Copilot can come back and search that. So if you've shared stuff out and you don't need them in anymore, and you don't want them to try and be able to do that, that's a good thing to do. Make sure you remove those sharings from there. Because again, anything that a person has permissions and access to will go into their semantic index. So everything's in there. Your emails, everything else. This usually takes between 3 and 4 days for a personal index, depending on how big everything is. Company one, again, how big that is, it can take up to a week. So your first Copilot license, you may not get good information or anything like that until that semantic index is done. There is a way to find out, but it's like convoluted through PowerShell and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I just went, no, I don't want to learn. I don't care. I tell the people, it's 3 or 4 days. So I give it out on a Thursday and say, if it's not there on Monday, let me know. And then I say, oh, it was a busy weekend, so maybe it's still got to go. You know how that works. Did you reboot 3 times? I mean, did you turn it off, turn it back on again? All those little things that we can tell them of going with those. The buttons will not show up in some of those probably for another day once you assign a license to a user and all that stuff. So it's just give it time, let it bake through, give it to them and say, you may not see anything until, next week. Mitigating security risks, doing regular security audits, user training, clear usage guidelines. The guidelines, everyone should have, whether you have Copilot or not, an AI company policy on. Okay, if you don't have one, make one up, Google it, have Copilot write it for you. I'll show you one that I've seen someone use that you can kind of go off as a template if you would like. But you need that acceptable use policy for your people to kind of say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. And by some of those, I mean, if you're using company data in ChatGPT or free Copilot or some of the other AIs, it's out there. I mean, it's in there using their large language model. And if you've come up with the solution, it may give that solution to someone who's searching for that same solution. So you got to be careful that no company data goes into OpenAI. Copilot, Microsoft says, they promise that it stays inside your tenant and will not build the large language model publicly, but will help your internal large language model and your semantic index and stuff like that. So at High Point internally, we're getting one together, basically saying if it has company data in it, you cannot use any AI that's not approved by internal IT, which in our case is Copilot if you have any company data to it. So I had messed up once where you probably have all worked with Chris Perry before. He and I always chat back and forth. I took our chat logs and it had one customer mentioned in there, but we didn't talk about anything about that customer. It was just like, I'm going to so-and-so this afternoon. So again, there was company data in there. I probably should not have put that in. Has anybody heard of Notebook LM? We'll go through this later. You give it like a text document or a PDF, and it'll make a podcast for you with two people talking. And I've got a little snippet of that that we can go through. It's unbelievable what it can do nowadays. But again, if we had our acceptable use policy in place, I could have gotten in trouble for that because it did have company data. So you just got to try and work through of what is acceptable, what is not, what can people use, those types of things. I did find out that if you have M365E5, which I'm sure everyone does because it's really cheap, you can actually set up some purview in there that inside of Edge. So if you only use Edge, it will block ChatGPT and all of those and will not let you use any other AI except for Copilot. So Microsoft's getting out there and going, no, you're only using ours and putting it as a security feature rather than blocking the installs or any of that stuff. Internal AI policy, again, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but again, transparency. What do we want? What do we need? Those types of things. Fairness. The fairness one, I kind of laugh at because who remembers Google Gemini's pictures when there was no white people in there at all? Everybody see that one? Where there was Asian and Nazis and Vikings were, this other race that they weren't, and just because, we can't have white people in that, so let's put other people, and now it's biased on that and not giving you the right information. I'm not doing politics here, but there was Alexa. You would say, hey, Alexa, why would I vote for Trump? And they would say, you should vote for Kamala Harris because of this. So again, AI can be very biased. Don't just think that, it's going to give me information that is the same way I feel. It's not. It is going to be based on what has been programmed in. And then each user is ultimately responsible for the content they produce, blah, blah, blah. Basically saying, if you're doing something with Copilot or AI or something else, don't just say, okay, yep, there's my Copilot presentation and I don't have to do anything else because it's all done. No, I needed to come in here. I need to do some other stuff to it. I should have done a lot more, but like I said, I wanted you guys to see what it looks like. If you go into somebody's meeting and their PowerPoint looks like this, picture, bold things, those, picture, bold things, those, they use Copilot, guaranteed. Tell you right now, they use Copilot to set it up. So again, you want to just make sure with that internal AI policy that you're understanding or making it clear what they can and can't do. If you don't care that they're using ChatGPT with customer data because you don't feel it's that big of a deal, put it in here that you can use ChatGPT for anything you want, or you cannot use any free AI. So just kind of go through those types of things of what should or shouldn't we be allowing. Future Copilot. Yep, perfect. Love it. Integration with other systems, like I talked about, they will do some, tie-ins with other products and those types of things. So as this gets more and more, we can, you'll see more of those cross bridges of where you can use Copilot to access other systems. How many of you have like set up single sign-on into your Azure environment to like your firewall for MFA, you've set it up to go through Azure? When that first started, there was only like 3 things that Microsoft had access to or instructions on. You go there now, and I think it's like 10,000, and they have all those things. Copilot's the same way. They've got an integration page where you can go find it and look in there and see if your product's in there, and it'll have all the instructions and stuff like that. If it's not in there, my guess is in the future, it will be in there, just like the other part. Microsoft wants to get their hands on everything. It's just like Google. It's all data and everything else. They want to try and corner that market. Ethnical, again, use it responsibly, use it good. Don't use it to, hey, I can get out of here at noon on Friday now because I don't have anything else to do. Don't make up a PowerPoint and go, yeah, I worked 8 hours on this and put your time at 8 hours when it took you an hour, unless it's me and I tell my boss that I need all day. Don't tell them. Other AI platforms. So if you've seen the new Google VO3, you type in what you want and it will make a video on it. Oh, you see, whoops, hit the wrong button. These are not active. I'll do one more if it'll pop up here. We'll see how well this does. All AI, these are not actives.
They're not nuts. Damn, I can't cash this check. Because you're not real, this is all just an AI prompt. Talking about we're not even real. We're here because someone typed a sentence on a distant universe. So when are we gonna tell the people they're just prompts? People knew they were AI, they would chase us under. Because the prompt said we could. So
are they real or are they just AI? Okay, so. So this is Notebook LM, but this is the Windows Server 2025. So again, if you want this and want to learn about 2025, we can certainly get this to you. It is a great document, just email marketing. As you can see, it's just PowerPoints, just like what I'm doing here. I mean, there's nothing really in here that is that informational. However, let's get rid of this. you take that PowerPoint and you bring it into Notebook LM.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving deep into Windows Server
I didn't type the
2025.
script.
Straight from Microsoft's Ignite.
Yeah, we've got a whole stack of info on upgrades, security, virtualization, the whole shebang. Why it matters for anyone working with Windows Server, especially with this whole cloud integration push Microsoft got going on. So whether you're thinking upgrade or just curious about,
So again,
welcome to the deep dive.
yeah, that's if you are one that doesn't like to read and you like to listen, which I do, I will take the white papers, this PDF, I will put it into Notebook LM, have that, and I can play it on the road. There's a couple of engineers that do weekly podcasts. This is what they do now, is they type it up inside of there, they do it, and then take the transcript and kind of talk about it themselves type thing. So AI takeover. I know it's really small to read, but I'll give you the highlights. They fed a bunch of fake data into an AI system and said, you know, the engineer was having an affair. It was in his email, stuff like that. Some other stuff was going on in the background. And in one of the emails that it saw, the AI saw, was, hey, we're thinking about going a different route. We'll go with the different AI. We're going to shut this one down. This AI emailed the engineer and said, hey, if you turn me off, I will send your wife an email that you're having an affair. Yeah. So again, it was all in lab, all that stuff. It wasn't real life data. But yeah, it basically said, yeah, if you do, I'm telling your wife about your affair. Sorry. I'll ruin your life. Don't turn me off. Conclusion, again, security concerns, stuff like that. Just make sure that you're really worried, you know, you're really looking at your data, what's out there, who has access to it, going through those types of things. I love Copilot. I like that if we had our SharePoint open, we were early adopters, so we're still trying to figure that stuff out. And there is some data that we're trying to secure before opening it up. But when we first had it, I could go in there and say, hey, our employee handbook was in there. I could go into Copilot and say, hey, how much vacation do I get? And it'll pull up what it says from the handbook of you get this, or you can take this amount of time off per year and stuff like that. It's not going to tell you exactly what you have unless you had it integrated in with that other system. But you can have employees find out information in employee handbook rather than reading the whole handbook or some other type of thing. Hey, how do I submit a timesheet? And it could be under, you know, instruction document 513 or whatever. They can just put that into Copilot and they can find that. Let's do some demos. Let's see, I've got about 20 minutes left, correct?
Sure.
Okay. For the sales team, I had an internal Copilot training. So this isn't with customer, this is not company data. I had to find something that I could do. If you have Copilot, and this is where you kind of need to go, what does this person need? Because you can do Teams Premium, transcribe or record it, and they will get this recap and apps and notes and all that stuff. That's only 10 minutes, okay? If you want them to have the Copilot suite for Outlook and those types of things, then yes, it's and I'm going to say 30. I don't know exactly what cost is anymore. Thankfully, I don't have to. Oh, okay, awesome. So if people just need it for, like, our pre-sales guys, they don't really need it for everything because they don't really need it. But when they're doing pre-sales calls, this would be really good for them because then they could come back and do some recaps and stuff like that. Let's just click view recap here. I know it's not going to be. Meeting notes, transcription teams, you know, what to do. I know nobody can read it back there, but, you know, we recorded this, you're going to get that. If we go here to the little Copilot here. And bring this up. I asked, because I remember somebody talking about Excel and pivot tables, but I think that we had turned off recording at that point. I can ask it, hey, was pivot tables mentioned in here? What did we talk about there? Did we mention this? And it'll bring up those types of things, and then you can dig down throughout the meeting. This is also nice for, let's say, you have a meeting and you come in late. You're 10 minutes late. Click on Copilot, catch me up. What did I miss through the meeting? Catches you up, and you're at least going from there. Gives you the, what are after action items, those types of things. And again, it's going to say generated by AI, check for accuracy. So in my pre-sales, you guys don't see them, but the account managers do. I leave it in just, because I don't care. Yep. Let's go in here to Copilot, draft with Copilot. I am very disappointed that you did something wrong. Okay, let's generate that bad boy. I hope you're all doing well. I wanted to reach out and express my disappointment regarding a recent action. Much better than my one little sentence there. Believe it's important, that type of stuff. Anything you'd like to change? Hey, let's adjust that. Hey, let's make it a poem. I hope your day is well and bright, but I must share my disappointment, and it must be right. So again, not really business related, but if you're trying to make something funny or kind of doing something off the wall or doing a little something different, this will do it. And then you can go back and say, well, no, let's go back to this. Let's go adjust again. Let's make it more formal. Again, it's going to kind of put in some more fillers, stuff like that, and those types of things. So it works really good to even out some of those rough edges of an email. The other thing I use it for in here is you get on a chain of emails and there's like 50 different emails inside this chain. They're summarized at the top now. So you can go summarize this. And a lot of times, like engineers will look at it and somebody will have asked a question in the middle of that, and we don't know if we've answered it, we don't know anything else. So we can go, hey, summarize this, and it'll summarize it all out and say, so-and-so asked you a question about this. You replied back with this. All good. There's nothing more for you to do on it. Okay, perfect. I don't need to read 50 emails for me to figure out I'm good. I can walk away from this email chain. Okay, so at High Point, we are trying to basically make sure that going into your guys' system, we're a little more secure. Okay, so our CTO came back and said, what are some of our options that we can do? Well, one is, hey, we can create a conditional access so only High Point can get in from High Point sites. We can say, hey, you can send us a cloud account, or you can invite our cloud accounts in and give it a GA role, that type of stuff. That's all I did was these two lines, option 1, option 2. It gave me this Word document, exploring it out. Option 1, implementation. Again, all I had was that stuff up there. It's talking about creating tenants, those types of things, conditional access policies, some advantages, some challenges, inviting in those, customer invites, again, how to do it. Again, I didn't ask it to do this. It basically said, here's what we can talk about in here. And then with Copilot, I can make changes and stuff like that. So it works really good for those that want a nice document like this rather than my 2 lines, because normally I would have just sent 2 lines, option 1, option 2, here you go. And they would have said, I don't understand what you're talking about, because they want this whole big Word document. There are some stuff in Excel that you can use. I do not use Excel a lot, so I can't really talk too much about that. If you want to change something inside of a document, it usually will tell you how to do it. Okay, it'll give you put this formula in this box. If you have a blank document and you say, hey, I need a spreadsheet of sales and I need, kind of profit loss numbers, all that stuff, it'll kind of start filling out what it thinks you're going to start needing. And then you can say, hey, add this column over to here. And then you can put the column over to there and kind of work through that and go with those. So there are some nice things with that of setting up a spreadsheet in the beginning in those. Pivot tables, I hate them. I don't even know how to do them. I had to do one and Copilot walked me through it, thankfully, but I didn't have to go Google it Bing it, Microsoft. I didn't have to go look it up of how to do it. So at least it was nice enough where I could do it all inside of there and do that. I know some people, they'll have, a spreadsheet of, I've got these projects going on. Here's the engineer. Here's where we're at with it. They could go into the Excel and into Copilot, say, what projects is this engineer working on? And it come back and give you those. So that works really nice. I can't show this, but there's SharePoint agents out now. Again, I can't set them up with inside of our SharePoint. We're still working through a couple of things to get that rolling. But you can set up a Copilot agent on a SharePoint site. So project management has a SharePoint site. You can have an agent that comes over that's just in Teams or inside of their stuff that they can go inside of there and say, hey, I need to know everything up to date on this project. And it's only going to look in their SharePoint site. So that's kind of the nice thing about the SharePoint agents. So those are something new that just came out that will help people out with inside of those. So let's say you're HR, you could make an HR agent and send it out to the people with Copilot, and then they could just go to that one agent and go, okay, perfect. I can search everything inside of HR and it's inside this. I'm not giving it to the whole thing. Bring up Edge. How it gets. Let's go. Oops. I get in trouble now. So I can come in here and, hey, let me, prep for your meetings, recap, all that stuff here. I want to just, I just want to ask questions. You want to be careful of is there's work in web for Copilot inside of Edge and Bing. If you are asking it a question, like I was asking about Exchange SE and prices that are coming out, because we're still waiting on those. So I'm like, hey, when are pricing coming out with that? And the response was, we're still waiting on that. I'm like, well, that sounds really familiar. I just did a lunch and learn on Exchange SE and I said that exact same thing. Oh, yep, I'm on work. I need to go to web because I want external results. So just keep in mind that there is that little bit of a disconnect in there of those. One of the things that we're looking at is ShareFile. And again, the person that I was presenting this to wanted a document, not just me with inside of a notepad of here's the 5 things that I found. Give me info on ShareFile. There, it's a little bit slow off the gas, so we'll see how long this takes. There we go. Blah, 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 all the wonderful stuff. Would you like help setting up? Then you can come down here and it's kind of like the autofill of your typing where, the game of hey, I'm going to put in one word and then just put in the first word of every prompt that comes up. Same thing. How do I set up customer branding? Oh, let's start with that. And I just keep going down and down and down until I think I have enough information that I've asked questions about security and those types of things. Then from here, until this is, I'm doing good today. It's going to start doing that. And most of the time, it'll send you a link that you go out to that'll be on one of SharePoint sites. And then it disappears once you grab it. Yeah. Open that. Step by step. Again, I didn't ask it a lot of stuff. So it's just kind of those types of things. So again, if you're evaluating a product and you need a nice report about it, I just go in, I start searching everything through it, and then come back and go, okay, create me a Word document, done. So again, I could have done all this, would have taken me a while. I just did it in, 15 minutes or so. Not even. Do we got any questions? How many people are horrified about the videos that you saw today? I do not trust anything I see on TikTok, YouTube, any of those anymore. They're just, no, I'm not going to deal with it. Did anybody heard of Onion News? They kind of make the fun, yeah. They've been using Google to Geo, I think, to do some of their stuff now too, because it's looking really good. So again, just be cautious of what you're doing. Make sure that the data is secure. Copilot is not going to make you unsecure. It's going to make stuff easier to find. You were already unsecure. Sorry, I don't mean to make that sound bad, but it's data and it's all out there and it's always been garbage everywhere. And it's going to be that way probably for a very long time. We all know what shared drives and those things look like. So data is going to be there. You just need to make sure it's more secure.
For rolling this out to an organization, their experience from what we've heard, are people deploying this to giving everybody in the company a $30 license, limited it to a certain number of users? What kind of thought process is put in terms of actually deploying this?
Yep, nope, that's a good question. I think I missed that halfway through. Basically, at High Point, we did 2 engineers. It was me and another engineer. We started looking at stuff. Started doing the searches of, hey, how much does so-and-so make? What's their birth date? And all that stuff, just to make sure. Because I created a spreadsheet that had fake data of all that out into SharePoint, and I knew it could see it. And I asked it, and that was there. So internal testing with, just kind of looking at some of those things, just with a couple of people. Started out with that. Then go to a focus group. So like our focus group at High Point was, we had a couple salespeople, we had a couple PMs, we had, a couple admins, we had someone in pre-sales, those types of things. So it was like 10 people that were in this initial group. We would meet weekly, or tried to meet weekly. It's kind of hard to get 10 people all together at the same time, but say, what are you using this for? Oh yeah, we did this. And how do your different departments use it? Then the departments went back to our CPO and said, we want this. Here's our business proposal, why we want it. And then was approved for that department. Then it came out where, okay, we'll approve it for another department, but the person has to come up and give you a valid reason of what are they going to use it for and everything else. Biggest thing on the back end of this is there is good reporting of the person that used it, whether they just used it for Teams, Word, Outlook, all of that stuff. Look at that every 30 days. You can move a license from one person to another. Yes, you have to buy it for the whole year, or maybe you can do it monthly now, but it's a big investment. everything else. If they're not using it, move it. Or if all they're using it for is Teams, get them a Teams premium, save the $20. If it's a person that you know is only going to work 40 hours a week and they're saving 4 hours and going golfing on Friday afternoon, I wouldn't give it to them. I mean, you need to make that business decision of whether or not they not deserve it, but need it. And of course, there's some people that will not do it. I mean, you can give it to them, but they're not going to understand it. They're not going to use it. And in that case, you know, we gave it to all the PMs at High Point. All the PMs have used it greatly. There wasn't any that, you know, said, oh, okay, so that was good in that department. Now, then that's kind of where they said, hey, let's have the managers of those departments get feedback from the people that want it and make that business decision of whether or not they actually need it. Me, I love it. I've had some people say, I'll pay the $30 a month, just get me it. So there is some of that that's been out there. I think Jamie's going to kick me off the stage. Oh, okay. Yeah, anyway, seriously. And I'll be around, so I'm going to be here through lunch. So if you guys have any questions or want to talk about something, I'll be around for a while.